how do the FNAF Help Wanted 2 minigames El Chips, Pizza Pizza Pizza, and Fazbear Theater work off camera and behind the scenes? Let me show you. So as we head into the food prep minigames, the first restaurant in need of our expert services is El Chips. In this game, you'll work behind the counter to feed a barrage of starving staff bots, microwaving a variety of food items, and scooping sides to fill out the orders appearing on the big screen. There's more than a bad Yelp review on the line here, since failing to complete the orders in time results in a jump scare. Rewinding time, the very first thing I wanted to do was take a look at the food court area to see what a workplace really looked like. The lobby area we're working out 9 to 5 in is only a small section of the greater map we're currently in, and around the corner are a couple of interesting finds. For one, the checkered flooring comes to a stop just before this large hallway on our left, and the hallways extend a short ways beyond that as well. On this side of the court, we can also find a small army of hungry staff bots waiting for their turn to grab a quick bite, each of them holding a food tray and remaining idle until the dinner bell rings. We can watch as this takes place from a different perspective, and they'll simply roll their way up to the counter and queue up for their turn. After we've satisfied their orders, the bots will turn around and wheel the way back to the others, vanishing once they've left the player's sight, but their food items remain momentarily. That means the food on their trays just falls to the floor, and there's no point in serving them at all, rendering our job completely pointless. Perfect. I love it. On the topic of staff bots, there are a couple of them behind the player working in the kitchen, but they're miles away from that Michelin star. As a matter of fact, they haven't even started. The first bot is standing in front of the two pots, stirring away at a whole lot of nothing. There's steam coming from them both, despite there being nothing inside. But hey, at least this meal is low on calories. On the other side, there's another bot working with a couple of frying pans, and while he's made an equal amount of nothing, he definitely gets an A+ for the style points. He straight up hits the Salt Bay pose as he cooks, sometimes even lighting the pan on fire in the process. All of these theatrics, and they've made zero food. Glorious. Now, one of the more interesting parts of this minigame has to be the seating area outside the food court. Most of this area is beyond the player's typical viewpoint, but out here we can find various seats and other assets occupying this open space. What I mainly wanted to highlight though is this giant projection that's placed beyond the balcony. This is a really giant image of the Pizzaplex that's dynamically linked to the camera, and as we move the camera around this object, we can see more of the surrounding area, including the balcony that this area is meant to replicate. By doing it this way, you would never know we're not actually in the Pizzaplex, and your machine doesn't have to load in a fully modeled location you'll never get to explore. If we take a look beneath the map, there are a couple of interesting things hidden out here in the void. First, there's a copy of the screen we use to take the staff bot's orders down here, and I'm not exactly certain of its purpose. Not far from here, we'll also find the head chef bot's jump scare model T-posing in the abyss. This model is a lot taller than I expected them to be, and we can watch their jump scare from another angle while we're down here. On the topic of this particular enemy, we could find them elsewhere in the map as well, just not somewhere you may expect. Above the order screen and out of bounds, we'll find the head chef bot hanging upside down in their default pose. When playing the tutorial for this level, this character drops down from up above to give you a quick rundown. But because we've skipped the tutorial, they'll just hang out here temporarily and then unload. Before we move on, I wanted to know where the food comes from when we press the buttons in our station. After the button is pressed, the food we choose will instantly appear inside the machine where we can then grab it. This is definitely the quickest fast food I've ever seen, but unfortunately, still microwave quality. Now as you press on, we'll arrive at Pizza Pizza Pizza, because one less pizza is copyright infringement for an actual restaurant chain. This minigame is extremely similar to the previous, although this time we're rocking the Pizzatron 3000. We'll once again view the orders on the big screen up above, only now we're making actual pizzas instead. Staff bots will arrive at the counter, but our only real customer is an impatient Glamrock Chica, who rudely shoves the bots out of the way each time we finish an order. You'll do this for multiple meal rushes, clearing the night if you can complete each order in time. With the lights on, we can have a peek around the level, where we'll find that our staff bot friend is hanging out just out of sight. I say friend because, unlike the previous minigame, there's only one bot occupying this level at the moment. There can be multiple bots waiting at the counter at the same time, but they aren't all loaded in at once before entering the gameplay area. Directly below this area, we'll find a T-posing Glamrock Chica floating dormant out of bounds. Despite her presently chilling in the void, I moved the camera back inside the map to find her going wild on the garbage in front of our workplace. Well, sort of anyways. She's standing behind the trash cans, and it looks like she's shoveling garbage into her mouth, but up close we can see that she's eating nothing at all. Her hands are completely empty. This is one of the many locations she can appear in throughout the minigame, and after the player looks at her, she'll leave, warping somewhere else to bother you until you look at her again. When the player finishes an order and serves it up, Chica appears to steal a poor staff bot's lunch. But what does this look like from another angle? As soon as the bell is rung, Chica is moved behind the counter and out of our sight, starting in this super scrunched up pose before rising upward into view. Throwing the bot out of her way, she'll then scarf down all the food we just prepared. And by that I mean she knocks the tray over and wastes all our efforts. Something interesting I noticed when viewing this in bullet time is that the square particles seen during this eating sequence have a default texture applied to them. These are a bit too dark to see during regular gameplay, but here we can clearly see their checkered appearance. This is also obscured a bit by her hands, since she blocks most of the tray during this eating animation. The poor stat bot Chica just obliterated will lay on the ground for the duration of this sequence, eventually unloading before their attacker does the same. A few seconds later, another bot will appear in their starting location, carrying a tray over to the player in hopes of getting something good to eat. Now, because this area functions mostly the same as the last minigame, there isn't much else to see here, but we can take a quick look at Glamrock Chica's jumpscare animation in bullet time, which is pretty frightening, but hard to take seriously with food particles flying out of her mouth. She then resets to a T-pose as static fills the player's screen. Heading into Food Prep's one and only hard mode minigame, we'll arrive at the Fazbear Theater. We'll once again be feeding Glamrock Chica here, only now we're serving various movie theater snacks instead. On top of distributing pretzels and overpriced popcorn, we'll also have to mix the drinks from the drink fountain to create specific combinations. We're equipped with a fast camera as well, not for the chicken, but to the endoskeletons approaching from the darkness. They'll move closer when they're not being watched, and failing to flash them in time will result in a jump scare. Restarting this night, we can flick the lights on in this theater area, where you'll notice a couple of things. For one, even if we want to leave, there is truly no escape from our pizza overlords. The doorway on our left is a giant gray barrier, and there are piles of trash leading outwards into the void beyond it. The door on our right doesn't lead anywhere either, so we're pretty much trapped here until our shift is over. Behind the player there are two doorways, but the room they lead to is only a small hallway with, you guessed it, more garbage. Like the last minigame, if we look underneath the floor, there is a T-posing shattered Glamrock Chica below the map, and right next to her is a huge white platform. This platform is a 3D object that is a solid white color, and I'm not entirely sure why this object is down here. It could be a piece of leftover white boxing, but that's only a hunch. Now during our shift, our good pal Chica can appear in various locations to distract you from the task at hand. When this takes place, we can see from another angle that she instantly warps between these poses, including this one, where she stares longingly at the popcorn machine. When the player turns to face her, she'll quickly leave your sight, and from another angle, this looks a bit funny. As this animation begins, she'll quickly sink down behind the counter as her knees clip through the floor, her torso moving downwards until she's completely out of our view. She'll then be removed from the map until she's set to appear again. Unlike the other minigames, when we finish an order in the theater, Glamrock Chica will slam the tray and the food falls out of sight. This is pretty hilarious when watched from another perspective, as you'll see that the moment we ring the bell, Chica will warp in front of the counter, doing the craziest splits you will ever see. She's so talented, in fact, that she has completely dislocated both her arms. They're nowhere near their sockets as she slams her fists down on the tray. The same food particles used earlier start flying out from behind her head, and a moment later, she snaps into this hunched over pose, rising up into the player's sights as this sequence ends. Chica isn't the only animatronic we'll face here, as a couple of endos will make an appearance a bit later in the minigame. With the lights on, we can watch them in all their glory, spawning near the back wall in front of the player and making their way forward each time the player looks away. It's creepy watching them from this view as we break their sight line, since their eyes begin glowing the instant their walking animation activates. If you fail to flash them with a fast camera in time, they'll approach the counter where you're working and raise their hand, swinging forward as the jumpscare animation begins. They also clip through the counter a bit, which I hadn't realized when playing through this game normally. Beneath the map, we can watch their jumpscare animation from another angle and in bullet time, but there's something else down here that you may find a bit funny. Chica's jumpscare model is currently in the split pose from her eating animation, which I really wasn't expecting when I moved the camera over here.